Over 10,000 years ago, the Xenos race known as the Aeldari held uncontested dominion over much of the galaxy. However, thanks to the race's ever-increasing acts of hedonism, the Aeldari would give rise to the fourth prime Chaos God, Slaanesh, the god of excess, pleasure, and pain. With the birth of Slaanesh, the Aeldari Empire would collapse, and the majority of the species would have their souls consumed by She Who Thirsts as she took her first breath. Yet it was not solely the Aeldari themselves who would experience the hunger of Slaanesh, for much of the Aeldari pantheon would be hunted down, destroyed, and consumed by the Chaos God. Of all the Aeldari gods, only 3 would survive this calamity. Shagorak, the laughing god who fled into the depths of the webway, Isha, the goddess of healing, who would be spared from destruction thanks to the intervention of Nurgle, the chaos god of decay and disease, and Kayla Mencha Khaine, the Eldari God of War, who would battle fiercely against Slaanesh in combat. Although the Chaos God's power was greater than that of Khaine, Slaanesh would prove unable to destroy the War God completely. While many stories exist regarding the exact circumstances detailing the end of their duel, all agree that Khaine's physical form was shattered, with his fragments being scattered throughout the material realm. Each of the War God shards would take root within the Wraithbone core of a Craftworld, the great city ships of the Asciani sect, before taking on a new form, transforming into the mighty beings known as the Avatars of Khaine. These Avatars of Khaine, as expected of fragments to a much greater whole, share an almost universal appearance, sporting an ornate headcrest that is superficially similar to a set of antlers, and a toughened, iron-hard flesh comprised of molten metal, with one hand perpetually dripping with blood while the other wields a mighty weapon in combat. This blade, known as the Suindele, or Wailing Doom, will often take the form of a great spear or sword, which glows white-hot with an eternal eldritch flame. Despite the avatars of the various craft worlds appearing to share a similar, if not almost identical appearance to one another, the avatar that existed upon the craft world of Zaisuthra would be revealed to be nothing less than an abomination. Zaisuthra was an ancient craft world that, at some point in time, had fully succumbed to a Genestealer infestation, and as a result, the craft world's populace was comprised predominantly of both Genestealer hybrids and brood brothers, individuals which had sired or birthed the aforementioned hybridized offspring. Somewhat surprisingly, the Genestealers had even found a way to infect the craft world's Avatar of Khaine with their corrupting influence. This monstrosity boasted an elongated skull filled with row upon row of razor-sharp teeth, as well as multiple arms, 2 of which sporting dexterous hands, while the others ended with the characteristic rending claws of a Genestealer. In its hands, the abomination wielded not only the Wailing Doom, but also bore the Cup of Creel, a great chalice that was filled to the brim with blood. This particular avatar was known to the Zaisuthrans as the Patriarch of Khaine. It would appear that this creature was also the first Genestealer to set foot upon the craft world, as well as begin the initial infestation process, siring the entire brood upon Zaisuthra. However, this Patriarch of Khaine was no mere imitation of an avatar clad in ceremonial armor, but an actual Genestealer that had somehow become the avatar itself, as its body was wreathed in both smoke and flame, with its flesh pulsating and glowing like living magma. Indeed, this Patriarch of Khaine would be described as being both an alien broodfather and demigod, whilst being neither at the same time. While this aberration would ultimately be destroyed, thanks to the efforts of the Inari, one question remains unanswered. Just how exactly did the Avatar upon Zaisuthra become corrupted by Genestealers? The most likely possibility comes from the Eldari's own ritual for awakening the Avatar. Whenever a craft world prepares for war, one of the Exarchs, individuals who become lost upon the path of the warrior, is chosen by the seers of the craft world to bear the title of Young King. This Young King is then expected to serve as a sacrifice in order to arouse the Avatar from its slumber. As the Young King prepares to awaken the Avatar, various prayers and war hymns will be uttered by those seers and exarchs that have gathered in attendance. The young king will then be ritually cut, allowing their blood to flow into the Cup of Creel before they are then gifted the Wailing Doom. Once the chamber of the Avatar finally opens, the young king bearing both the Wailing Doom and Cup of Creel will enter alone. After a period of several hours, days, or even weeks, the Avatar will finally emerge, ready to lead his children into battle and destroy those that dare threaten the Craftworld. While the exact interaction between the young king and the Avatar is not entirely clear, there are a few possibilities regarding the fate that befalls the young king. The first of which is that the young king is either murdered or commits some form of suicide before the Avatar itself, with both the blood and soul of the young king stirring the demigod from its state of hibernation. However, another possibility is that the young king becomes, in essence, one with the Avatar, similar to how an Eldari warrior can resurrect a slain Phoenix Lord by simply donning their armor. If this were indeed the case, then this would appear to explain as to how the Avatar on Zaisuthra was able to become corrupted by Genestealer genetic material. As the Genestealer cult continues to grow in size, power, and influence, the cult's Patriarch will also develop a greater intelligence. Given the connection that the Patriarch would have had with the Eldari of Zaisuthra, thanks to an aggregate psychic consciousness known as the Broodmind, the Patriarch of the cult could easily have learned of the Avatar's existence, before seeking it out in order to merge with it, allowing the creature to become reborn as the Patriarch of Khaine. It is also important to note that Genestealer Patriarchs are incredibly potent psykers, even more so than the average Eldari, and as a result, it's certainly feasible to assume that the Patriarch could have retained its own consciousness and sense of identity without being overwhelmed by the sheer warped presence of the Avatar itself, although such a process would certainly have proven to be taxing nonetheless. This in itself would appear to be the most likely possibility, as the tainted Eldari upon Zaisuthra, as detailed within the novel Ghost Warrior, would attempt to make Ayana, a spirit seer from the Craftworld of Yandan, drink from the Cup of Creel taken from the Patriarch's grip. The content of this cup was heavily implied to be that of the Patriarch's own genetic material, which if consumed would have infected Ayana and brought her under the beast's sway, transforming her into the newest member of the brood. But even then, there is always a possibility that an Avatar of Khaine would be incapable of being awakened by a pure strain Genestealer, regardless of how intelligent or cunning one may have grown, due to the simple fact that they are not an Eldari. If the Avatar could only be aroused from its slumber by an Eldari, then perhaps the Patriarch of Khaine could be the result of a young king that had been infected with a Genestealer's genetic material fusing with the Avatar itself, only for the godlike energies that permeated the Avatar's physical form to somehow accelerate or exacerbate the genetic taint contained within the young king, causing the Avatar to distort and mutate into this new monstrous form. But if this were the case, then one would need to ask as to just what could have happened to the original Patriarch of the Brood, although it is possible that the Patriarch of Khaine could have simply assumed control over the cult after killing the original Patriarch. The final possibility is that the Genestealers had somehow managed to infect the dormant Avatar of Khaine prior to its awakening. Initially, this would appear to be a complete impossibility due to the fact that Avatars of Khaine are technically demonic entities, similar to that of greater demons such as bloodthirsters. However, when demonic entities manifest within the material realm, they are forced to obey the laws of reality or, at the very least, to a certain extent. For example, demons that are able to produce poisons or venoms can be milked for such toxins, although the effectiveness of such poisons is tied directly to the victim's belief. If one believes that a demon's venom will result in their death, then contact with such toxins will indeed prove to be fatal. Demons also have blood, or at the very least, an analogue of it. As detailed within the novel Deliverance Lost, the Dark Mechanicum Magos Unithrax would engineer a virus that was intended to sabotage the Raven Guard Legion's Raptor project. This virus would be partially developed from the blood of a demonic entity, although the Magos would indeed clarify that such a term was more analogous than it was literal, as detailed with the following quote.
Demons do not have blood as such. It is merely a useful euphemism.
Many demonic entities are also unused to the laws of physics, with such creatures initially being clumsy or sluggish when they transition from one plane of existence to another. What also needs to be taken into account is just how adaptable Genestealers truly are. Genestealers are themselves one of many different bioform strains within the extragalactic Xenos race known as the Tyranids. One of the key characteristics of these creatures is that of their unparalleled ability to evolve and adapt against any potential threats to the High Fleets. Whilst Tyranids were known to struggle against both demons and other such entities corrupted by the powers of chaos, the High Fleets have begun to rapidly evolve a series of countermeasures in order to better combat against such foes. One such example is shown with High Fleet Kronos. Kronos is a specialist High Fleet appearing to have evolved for the sole purpose of combating demonic entities. To this end, Kronos has been shown to actively seek out worlds that demonstrate an unusually high level of psychic activity, which in itself typically coincides with the creation of a warp rift as well as the mass summoning of demonic creatures, before scouring all life upon those worlds that have been tainted by chaos. Demons can also be somewhat affected by certain kinds of poisons, or more specifically, poisons that are derived from the concentrated essence of blanks, individuals that manifest a negative warp presence. The effects of such poisons upon warp entities can be seen within the novel Primogenitor, as detailed with the following passage.
The demon screamed as the poison took effect. The solution tore the entity apart from the inside, unbinding the strange matter that made up its form. Kanathra dropped its blades and tore it itself, ripping chunks from its dissolving flesh as if to dig out the infection. It stumbled on melting hooves, almost dancing in its agonies.
Because Kronos has evolved to combat warp entities almost exclusively, it's not impossible to assume that the High Fleet has reconstituted the DNA of consumed blanks for the purpose of, for lack of a better term, poisoning demonic entities. After all, the Tyranids have been known to reconstitute the DNA of other species in order to create new bioform strains, such as biovores and zoanthropes, which were respectively created utilizing Orkoid and Eldari genetic material. As such, while it may be extremely improbable, it's not entirely impossible for Genestealers to, at some point, evolve the ability to infect the physical forms of warp entities. But whether or not this particular Genestealer had evolved to that point is unknown. Nonetheless, Zaisuthra's Patriarch of Khaine appears to be the sole instance of such an abomination coming into existence, with no other examples being documented within official records. But should a Craftworld prove less than vigilant in rooting out any potential Genestealer cults within their midst, then perhaps one day such a creature may once again come into existence. What do you think? Leave a comment below, and thanks for watching.